Well, Carter, I don't know how many times that we have to go down the same rabbit hole to talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Toronto Blue Jays not giving him the money he deserves.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Braden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasko, Carter First 2, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. If you're new here or you're listening anywhere else, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It helps us out. It's free to do so. You might as well. You guys have been killing it lately. But for those of you who haven't, make sure you do so. As well, Discord link is down in the description. You can hit that. Talk Blue Jays with us any time of day. Carter has been very active in there, chatting with everybody, seeing what you guys have to say of what's been going on as of late in Blue Jays land. A couple things to get into today. I know we were going to talk pitching, but news breaks, or news comes out as it always does, it seems like, in Blue Jays land. Everything is important because every little decision pushes the envelope forward into what's going to happen the rest of this offseason. And Carter, why wouldn't it be about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? The Blue Jays are apparently $100 million away from what Vlad wants. Bob Nightingale of USA Today reports that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is looking for a deal close to $450 million. The Blue Jays have offered him $340. We reported on this a while ago that the Blue Jays offered him $340 million. Originally, we said he was looking for closer to the $500 million mark. Looks like that has come down a little bit, Carter. At the end of the day, though, does this really scare you or frustrate you that the Blue Jays are $110 million away from this deal? This just doesn't seem close whatsoever to me.
Not very surprising, especially after you try to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr. after 2021, pretty much lowball him. And then you get to this point where Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. season in 2024, second best season since 2021. And with the Juan Soto signing, you just knew it was in the cards. The market has completely reset. As soon as you see a $765 million contract, against Shohei Ohtani, a little bit of a different situation, $700 million he pitches, and he is still one of the best hitters in baseball. Before that, it's Mike Trout at $426 million. That's almost double the value of Mike Trout for the Juan Soto deal. So you have to assume that as soon as you see a number like that, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to get way more money than he would have gotten even 2 seasons ago. And is this an overpay for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Maybe. You could say it's an overpay for Juan Soto as well. But these type of players don't come around too often. These caliber of players, especially wanting to stay in Toronto. So at this point, Ross Atkins, $450 million is what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hoping for. Didn't go into the term too much. I'm assuming it is 10 years. So that is $45 million per year. That is a lot of money to pay for one player, but that is the identity of your organization. So as much I love Vladimir Guerrero Jr., obviously want him on my team. It does suck now that we're in this position that if you want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be a Toronto Blue Jay for the rest of his career, at least the majority of it, you're going to have to pay a premium. You're going to have to pay way more than you probably want to, and you maybe probably should for a guy like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But if you lose Vladdy this offseason, again, maybe we sign Santander, Bichette, there's a bunch of stuff up in the air. This team could go in a completely different direction as a result of the season. And now it just confirms what everyone has been thinking. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is just not going to sign the contract extension this offseason.
Well, Carter, yeah, I mean that's what's going to happen, right? If the deal isn't done by the first day of spring training, then Vlad is, of course, not going to sign. He doesn't want to play with a contract weighing over his head and discussions being made during the year, which I don't blame him for. I think at that point, if the team that you want to stay for isn't willing to give you what you think you're worth, probably everybody else understands that you're worth that when it comes to the deals that have been talked about before. This is just, it's getting ridiculous to me because I think I'm at the point now where I'm saying pay Vlad whatever he wants. You need him to stay in Toronto. If he leaves, I don't know where this team goes from here. And we're going to get into it in the second segment of something else that broke along with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and talking about where he wouldn't mind ending up if it according to friends, apparently, that we'll get into all that. But Carter, just for the fact that with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. leaving this team, it's a huge hole. And I think a hole that's pretty unfillable. I don't know, is this the direction of a rebuild? Is that where this is going? Because in my head, I don't think you have another choice. This is the direction you're putting yourselves in if you don't re-sign him.
Yeah, obviously for this 2025 season, they're not going to rebuild. You still have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you still have Bichette, you still have Chris Bassitt, you still have a bunch of guys under contract. Obviously in on Santander, there's a bunch of pitching pitching players that pitchers in the league. There you go. That have been linked to the Toronto Blue Jays, but we've seen that all offseason. We've seen pretty much every single player, it feels like, linked to the Toronto Blue Jays. A lot of podium finishes. Does not matter if you do not land these free agents. But for 2026, that season, obviously we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, kind of want to focus on 2025 before. So I think that's a problem that we more so are going to talk about at the end of next season. But yeah, if you lose Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it really depends on how this season goes. You make the playoffs, maybe you make the ALDS, maybe you make the ALCS. Again, with the team composition right now, does it look like that's going to happen? Not on paper, that's for sure, especially when you're in the AL Beast. But for 2026, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a cornerstone of your franchise. You let that go, this team gets significantly worse. So depends what happens this offseason. You get Santander. Maybe that's a little bit more incentive not to go into the rebuild. Bichette signing, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signing. So it's tough to say that if they lose Vladimir Guerrero Jr., it's for sure a rebuild. It kind of just depends where they're going to allocate their resources. I think if you were going to rebuild, though, you probably should have did it this season. You probably should have did it this offseason with the guys that you have on the market, the guys that you could have traded with some control left. Is now when you wait until the next offseason, obviously you can't get value for these guys that are on expiring contracts. So I think a rebuild is definitely a possibility if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. doesn't sign. And I think a lot of fans are probably leaning towards a rebuild if Vladdy does not come back to Toronto.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really blame them, right? Because we've seen this organization not be able to sign big-name free agents. And again, we don't know what's going to happen with Anthony Santander or some of these bigger pitching prospects or free agents. But in the same regard, I think what you've seen so far has to sort of lean you in a certain way of what's going to happen with Anthony Santander. And me and you have talked about this already. I think it was on 2 podcasts ago or whatever, that the fact that if Anthony Santander doesn't sign here, there's not a whole lot left. And if you want to make a statement to some of these free agents, and again, we've said this multiple times, you need to lock up your in-house guys. Otherwise, what is that saying to free agents who are coming here that you're not willing to give out the big contract? To me, this is a no-brainer. You give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this money. You were going to spend it on Shohei. You were going to spend it on Juan Soto. He's your guy. He's your Juan Soto. He's your Shohei Ohtani. Yes, not to that extent, obviously. But there's only 2 of those players in the world, Carter. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is an exceptional baseball player, probably worth more than 450. I could see him signing a 14-year, $500 and some million contract. No doubt. So why not give him that 450? Say, okay, you know what? We want to get this over with before we hit the spring training mark. We want you here. We want you as a Toronto Blue Jay. Here you go. Here's $450 million. We want you as the face of our franchise for the next 10 plus years. I'm a little bit lost of what this front office is doing. And I feel like we've been saying that for the past 2 years.
Well, it's impossible to believe that somehow that Vladdy and the front office are going to compromise on $110 million in this offseason on a contract. There's no way that you find a value that's in between there that both sides are going to like. This pretty much all comes down to, do you think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the 2021 Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the 2024 Vladimir Guerrero Jr., or maybe more like the 2023 Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? If he's more like 2023 and that's what the front office is betting on, you probably don't want to pay a guy $450 million. But if he has a very good season, and he tests the free agent market where it's him and Kyle Tucker as the main free agents in that 2026 market, this guy's going to make over $450 million. There's going to be a ton of teams that are in on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So you're kind of playing a little bit of a guessing game. It depends how much you do value Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and who you think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. really is. One thing that I do want to kind of talk about with the contract offers is the Juan Soto obviously getting $765 million, setting the market, just going over some basic stats just to see if it does make sense to pay Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that $450 million, that $500 million, whatever it ends up being. So with Juan Soto, obviously signing $765 million, and I'm just going to go over his regular season averages. It's pretty nice to be able to go over these 2 players because they have relatively similar at-bats. Juan Soto has 3,280 at-bats. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 3,145 at-bats. So obviously Juan Soto, a little bit of the edge with these career numbers. But these are the career numbers of Juan Soto compared to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So over those at-bats, Juan Soto has a 285 average, 201 home runs, 592 RBIs for an OPS of 953. Then we go to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 288 average, so that is a little bit better than Juan Soto. 160 home runs, obviously lower. 507 RBIs and OPS of 863. So just going over those baseline stats, you can probably say that Juan Soto and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are both not very good defenders. You give them both that. Vladdy's playing first base, doesn't matter as much for defense as long as he can just, catch the ball. Juan Soto, obviously, I'd say it's a little bit more prominent to have good outfield defense than it is at first base, but we'll take that out of the equation for this. So with these contracts, $450 million will go up to $500 million as well. And that's if they probably sign him right now. I could see it easily exceeding $500 million if we get into the next offseason. But that is assuming that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has a similar season to 2024. Just looking at the numbers, you would lose $275-ish million compared to comparing a Juan Soto contract compared to a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract. I guess one thing that you could account for as well is that it's a little bit easier to find power hitting first basemen than it is to find power hitting left fielders, right fielders, just outfielders in general. Juan Soto obviously has a little bit of the advantage of walking though. But you look at these numbers, when you look at just the differences between, again, basic stats that these guys have, I think it's more than fair to pay Vladimir Guerrero Jr. $450 million just based off the Juan Soto contract. Again, is Juan Soto an overpay? That's a different conversation. I think it probably is. I'm not sure why you're paying a player $765 million. Absolutely ridiculous, but that's where the market is now. And that is the unfortunate part of not extending your guys when you have the opportunity to do so.
Well, and Carter, this brings me back to a conversation me and you had at the beginning of the offseason regarding a precedent, right? We said Shohei Ohtani was the precedent setter for what was going to happen in baseball moving forward. Then Juan Soto comes and confirms that. Now the precedent is set for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And yes, not as good, but when the market is a lot thinner next season, just overall, Vlad is going to be the number one guy on the docket for a lot of teams. So yeah, I think easily Vladimir Guerrero Jr. makes over $500 million. Will it reach 6? I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know at this point. The numbers, you're right, are pretty, Soto's got the edge, but there's only so many of those type of players out there. So there's going to be teams chomping at the bit trying to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So right now, to soak the $450 million compared to a $600 million contract that you then offer Vlad, is he going to sort of spit in your face afterwards when you maybe put out that contract and there's another team that's just as close after you just denied him and denied him and deny him every single season? He wants to play in Toronto, but I don't think he wants to get the bad end of the stick here, being sort of brought through the ringer by this organization. So suck it up, send over a boatload of money, and drop it on Vlad's front door. That's my thing.
It's going to be interesting now that they're this far off in contract talks, and we haven't even gotten to arbitration yet. Imagine how that is going to go for the Toronto Blue Jays, maybe burning some more bridges with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. once again. And about the spring training thing with Vladdy not wanting to talk contract once the spring training starts, I think that is a great move by Vladdy. You don't want to be thinking about a contract. You don't want to be thinking about your future. Think in the present. You got a year left. You got a year to a contract year, probably one of the biggest years, if not the biggest year of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s career. Why would you want to talk contract? Why would you want to even think about contracts? You want to think about baseball. You want to put your nose to the grindstone and get your bag that he's probably going to deserve at the end of 2025. We talked a little bit about this Bob Nightingale report. We haven't even gotten into the worst part. So we're going to get into that in the second segment coming up. This episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It was like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel your unwanted subscriptions and monitor your spending. And it also helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. I know as a kid, especially, I was playing a bunch of mobile games, and always it would work out if you had a free trial. If you signed up for that, you probably got a lot of things. So especially if you're having kids, probably a good idea to get Rocket Money, because if you do allow your kids to do that, probably going to forget to cancel those subscriptions, and they can rack up pretty quickly. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
So, Carter, as you said, we didn't get even into the meat and potatoes of this report by Bob Nightingale. Do you want to say it? Because it's going to kill me too, I think.
Yeah, we'll go into it. So, obviously, if Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I'll just continue the article. If Vladimir Guerrero Jr. does not receive an extension by spring training, he'll test free agency. That is obvious. And will likely be wearing a Red Sox uniform in 2026. If Guerrero doesn't return to the Blue Jays, he would love to be with the Red Sox, friends say, which may be why the Red Sox are hesitant in their pursuit for Alex Bregman. Again, this is hearsay. It's not exactly confirmed. But we've seen the Red Sox being in on guys like Juan Soto. We've seen them being in on multiple big free agents. It seems like all of a sudden they learned from Mookie Betts, and now they're trying to lock up guys that can be cornerstones of your franchise and be some of the best players in all of baseball. The same thing we always talk about with Anthony Santander. Helps Toronto Blue Jays in multiple ways. The Orioles get worse, Toronto Blue Jays get better. If the Red Sox get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., with the Toronto Blue Jays being in the AL East, already having Garrett Crochet, we could go over the list of what the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Red Sox have done. There's almost zero chance the Toronto Blue Jays can even be competitive in this division if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. goes to the Red Sox.
Yeah, this is what I mean. When we talk about a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract and locking him up and being a Toronto Blue Jay, not only do you make your team better, you keep him away from then going to sign within the division. And I don't know, you're sort of writing your own will a little bit in the sense that you're going to have to compete with the New York Yankees, who are always a tank, the Baltimore Orioles, young team, look fantastic, and then possibly the Boston Red Sox. You're just gonna suck. It's going to be 10 years of pain in the AL East for the Toronto Blue Jays, 10 years of pain for me and you, 10 years of pain for every Toronto Blue Jays fan out there. This is what I mean. I try to be positive on here, and then we keep getting reports that are just like, it just beat me further into the ground here. I'm getting frustrated because this front office, to me, this should be the easiest decision of your life. You say, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., what is the money you want? What in a realistic term? We originally heard the $500 million. He wants the $450 million. Give it to him. Even if it's not to make, if this doesn't make the biggest change of all time for this organization, at least it keeps him away from the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Orioles. Like, come on. I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say. The AL East is going to be an absolute juggernaut for the Toronto Blue Jays to face if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. somehow becomes a Red Sox.
See, I wonder how other fans, other organizations, even in the AL East, just view the Toronto Blue Jays. If this is actually a true report and the Red Sox are just going to hold out on Alex Bregman because they have no faith that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that's a wild stance from different teams in the AL East. A lot of Toronto Blue Jays are even seeing this as well. So that's why this report, again, not necessarily true, but it feels like it definitely can be true just based how this offseason has went. And just looking at the Red Sox, we want to talk about attractive locations. Rafael Devers, Tristan Costas there, Jarren Duran taking steps. Already went over Garrett Crochet, top 5 prospect system in all of baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays, you got Andrus Gimenez for a while, I guess. That's pretty cool. Like, it's just, you can't compete. And you look at the New York Yankees, not a great prospect system, but they'll go out and be competitive with the top free agents every single year. Wouldn't be surprised if they get Kyle Tucker in 2026. And then Hiroki Sasaki, who we haven't really talked about much on this podcast because just unlikely he's going to come to the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, when you talk about attractive locations, Toronto isn't necessarily even in the top 15, the top half of the league when you talk about that. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we're going to just beat this to death, obviously. And I think a lot of fans agree with this. It's kind of at the point where you made your bet with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You kind of just have to offer this guy the blank checkbook if you want to be competitive in the AL East for the foreseeable future, or you completely revamp the system, you completely abandon ship, and you got to be okay with probably being one of the worst teams in the AL for a significant period of time.
Yeah, Carter. And you know what? We've had conversations with people in the Discord. I know in some of the comment sections as well, just on the tax that comes along with being a Canadian team, right? And being the only Canadian team. Guys are going to get taxed more. It's hard to get players to want to be here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wants to be here. A superstar player like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wants to be in Toronto. So in my head, a guy that wants a player of that caliber that wants to be here, give him the bag. Give it to him. I understand the big offers to Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. They didn't want to be here. Corbin Burnes didn't want to be here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., with everything in his being, wants to be a Toronto Blue Jay. But he's also not going to take that crazy of a pay cut. $100 million isn't something to scoff at, especially, like I said, with the tax system here in Canada. Pay him the $450. Just give it to him. I want to see Vladimir Guerrero Jr. be a Toronto Blue Jay for life. I think my brother does because he just got a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. jersey, and I don't think that would be the best look for him to have that jersey for 1 year.
You would have thought Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably would have been one of the safer jerseys to get for the Toronto Blue Jays. I thought Jordan Manoah would be a pretty safe jersey to get. Almost got that. Ended up going with Daulton Varsho because of the control. I guess that was a good move by me. With just the other side of the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sweepstakes, is it impossible to be a good team if you don't have a big free agent like Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Not exactly. You see the Kansas City Royals that won the World Series in 2015, not a very high payroll. And the Washington Nationals have been good. The Tampa Bay Rays, always a team that's seeming like they don't have any big contracts whatsoever, and they still can be competitive from time to time. But saying that, is it more fun to watch a Tampa Bay Rays style of baseball, or is it more fun to watch the Los Angeles Dodgers just hit home run after home run after home run and have all these superstars? I'm not expecting the Toronto Blue Jays to be the Los Angeles Dodgers, obviously. Like it's not a realistic expectation to have. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we talked about this before. You sign this guy, you get your face of the franchise, you make a ton of that money back in seats, in merchandise, in so many different things revolving around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Talk about in Toronto. People don't even necessarily have to watch baseball. You're probably going to know who Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. So it would be interesting to see if they didn't sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., how they could allocate that money. Otherwise, they could get, again, a bunch of guys maybe on $15 million per year, $10 million per year. But that all comes back to, would you trust Ross Atkins to build that team, to build that roster? Just everything that we talk about that can be positive for the Toronto Blue Jays kind of leads back to the same point that we always have, that just is not a lot of things that go well for this team.
Carter, that's what we've said for Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto. Oh, they didn't get that player. Now they can go out and spend that money on other players. That doesn't happen. It hasn't happened. So why do we think in our heads, oh, well, if they don't get Vlad, oh, they'll go out and, sign players up to that $340 million mark? No, they're not going to. They're just going to use that to cut the payroll or to sign bad contracts, which is not anything better. And it will not reach that price. And I go back to this. Even if they sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., that's not enough to be a contending team. You still have this organization still now has to go out, make that signing, probably try to keep Bo around, and then go make one or two signings on top of that. So the Toronto Blue Jays, as much as this is all yippee, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we need him, we do, but you also need two or three guys on top of him. So that shows me the level of a hole we're in here as Toronto Blue Jays fans. And I hate to say that, but I'm trying to be realistic here. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., as great of a player as he is, you need two or three guys as well around him for this baseball team to succeed. So there is a lot of what ifs. And we said that we had no faith in this front office going into last season. And Carter, I am at the point where I don't know how anybody truly believes in this front office or has an inkling of belief. This is a absolute, I was going to say something else, a crapshoot for this Toronto Blue Jays team, this organization, this franchise. You let your superstar player possibly walk at the end of the year. It's a complete joke to me. And if that happens, I don't know. I might be banging my head against the wall.
See, and the people that do defend Ross Atkins, a lot of the time what I am seeing from that is they talk about contracts. Like, has Ross Atkins really signed that many bad contracts? Just off the top of my head, the Kevin Kiermaier one last season, not the greatest thing. But one of the reasons Ross Atkins doesn't really sign bad contracts because he's lowballing everyone.
He's not signing contract. He's not providing contracts.
That's exactly. He's not. Yeah, he's having podium finishes. He's not going out and signing these players that maybe carry a little bit more risk. He's going with Anthony Santander. Guy wants at the start of this the bidding war 5 years, $100 million. He goes and offers 4 years at $82 million. Again, not the worst starting point if it's October maybe or November, but now that we're in January, the fact that Anthony Santander has not signed, you think that you might try to switch up your strategy. So that is the Ross Atkins spin zone, is that, I guess, not really handing out bad contracts because he doesn't necessarily hand out contracts that often. And we talked about, like, last season, there wasn't a lot of good free agents. You pretty much know who Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. You know how he's going to produce. You know what his floor is. And you've seen the upside. You see what he can do. So think all Toronto Blue Jays fans, or at least the good majority of them, are on the same page here. And we just want to see a superstar on this baseball team. Even if this doesn't turn out well, you sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to $450-500 million per year. Or sorry, not per year, obviously, in the total contract, $45 to $50 million per year. Even if this team ends up not being very good for the next few seasons, at least we'd have this to fall back on and say, hey, at least we get to watch Vladimir Guerrero Jr. play baseball for the next 10 seasons.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm lost about this whole front office. I'm getting more frustrated every week that we go on throughout this offseason. And it just, there's no relief. There's nothing. I sort of said to you at the beginning of this week, I'm like, I sort of think that this is the week that Anthony Santander signs, maybe not with the Toronto Blue Jays, but signs a deal, a contract. And that hasn't happened yet. And I'm like, you see this guy sitting on the market, you'd think, hey, maybe up the price a little bit and maybe just get him to sign, even if it's an extra, the extra year. Give him $100 million for the 5 years and just do what you have to do, but they're just not willing to. And then you see Ross Atkins on the boat, and you see the fans losing their minds over everything. Then the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stuff comes out. It has just been an absolute whirlwind again of a week where this front office continues to let me down. But in saying all of that, Cart, I know that was sort of a ton of stuff to take in the sense of what's going to happen, what's the future, what's the outlook, what to think about. Sorry,
I got one more thing to add, just to kind of wrap up this Vladimir Guerrero Jr. saga that we got going on here. I think at this point where we're at in the offseason, how far away these two sides are in contracts, you almost have to throw it as a wash. You almost just have to move on, just focus on this season, maybe put the Vladdy extension talks to the side, because I don't see any way that you can compromise on $110 million if you're that far off on a contract. Maybe focus your resources on Anthony Santander. You do have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for this year. Maybe if you have a competitive season, maybe if you end up kind of shocking fans and making the playoffs, there's a little bit more incentive for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to come back to the Blue Jays. I almost think at this point, unfortunately, it might just be a lost cause this offseason to sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to an extension.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. That's a pretty sad thing since you've had years to do so and can't make something happen. There's no foresight within this organization. They couldn't see, obviously, the talent that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was going to be when you could have signed him a while ago for a lot cheaper, and they didn't. And that happens in sports all the time. But to now not bite the bullet and keep your superstar, it's excruciating. In saying that, let's get to something a little bit more fun, something that's sort of hilarious. I know you made a short TikTok a little bit about it, throwing it in. But whenever Yusei Kikuchi comes to mind or pops up on my timeline, I always have a good time. I love Yusei Kikuchi, so we're getting to all that right after this short break. Carter, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. I always talk about Game Time. Actually, just used Game Time the other day when me and my brother went to a Winnipeg Jets game. Game Time is the perfect place to get all of your tickets because it's the cheapest. They give you the deals. There's so many opportunities. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it may be. One of my favorite memories was attending a concert last year. The energy, the excitement, it was all unforgettable. We always talk about those times when we go to those things. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great stuff, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. My boy Yusei Kikuchi was getting after it. I love it, dude. For those of you who didn't see, Carter posted a short TikTok reel. I don't know. We posted on like a million different platforms, so it could be on, I don't know, X at this point. I'm not sure. Twitter, Blue Sky, I don't know. Whatever site we have a million of them. So make sure you guys go and do follow us on there so you guys can stay up to date with all the Toronto Blue Jays. Sort of wild and wacky information. Sometimes we post some a little bit crazier stories on there as well. So, Carter, what happened to our boy Yusei Kikuchi?
Yeah, made a short about it. I did sell a little bit while making the short because for some reason TikTok like scrunches what the picture that you have. So there, I did have the translation of what Yu Darvish said. And that's the funny part. Yu Darvish posted this on his Twitter, so I'm just going to read it out for the people here. So you, Darvish, Yusei Kikuchi, decided to get together, have some drinks. He said, I had a dinner with the Kikuchi couple while they were on vacation at the end of last year. We had a lively and fun time together with both families in the house that we rented. Kikuchi drank most of the Hibiki, I think that's how you pronounce that, that he bought with him, and eventually passed out drunk. He couldn't find an Uber to take us home, so we ended up staying the night. And obviously said permission was granted to take this photo. If you have not seen the photo, you can look it up on you, Darvish's Twitter. You can look at the short, the TikTok, the Instagram reel. It is out there. It's hilarious. Yusei Kikuchi is a national treasure, especially one of my favorite players to ever play for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially just looking at the career of Yusei Kikuchi. 2022. Horrible. One of the worst pitchers that I've ever seen. 2023, huge strides, the Pete Walker difference. Second half of the season, one of the best pitchers in honestly all of baseball. And you look at 2024, staples that career, gets that contract extension. You cannot hate on Yusei Kikuchi. And also, have to throw this in, when he did that truck stick at the Coliseum, one of the funniest things that I've ever seen on a baseball field.
Yeah, that was awesome. I remember I was away for that game. I was in New York. You and Skylar Peters went on the podcast, and I think you were the one. Usually I do the thumbnails and editing and everything. And the thumbnail that I see for that video is, should Yusei Kikuchi be in the NFL or something like that? And I'm like, what in the world? Because we were away at the time.
In New York. Yeah.
Yeah, we were away at the time, at an event. So I missed the game. I was pretty upset. I was coming back and I was I think it was late at night. Must have been 4 or 5 in the morning. I think I woke up to it. And I was going to go watch the highlights of it. Just couldn't sleep. You're in New York, whatever. And then our video pops up and I'm like, what happened here? Why, what kind of title is this? Best Yusei Kikuchi moment. Oh, I don't know. There's so many of them. It's hard to choose from, but that was a great one. Man of the people. Yusei Kikuchi is a man of the people. Just for him being okay with that being posted to by, one of your buddies, another MLBer, that's amazing to me. That really shows just some not caring, fun energy that Yusei Kikuchi always did bring to the ballpark. And we love talking about him. I think me and you, when we did our podcast for the first time, when it was Dialed In Jays, I believe, back 2 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago now might have been, Yusei Kikuchi was our guy. I remember we were that was nonstop. I think we talked about Yusei Kikuchi legitimately every episode, just because of how much we loved him and his story and what happened. So, yeah, just hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah, we definitely love the person at that point, but the player in 2022, I think, is what we were doing. But probably didn't say the nicest things about Yusei Kikuchi, because at that point was kind of tough to say good things about Yusei Kikuchi, but completely turned around his career, obviously. And this is just a funny in the context that you saw how Yusei Kikuchi celebrated a lot of his wins with the Toronto Blue Jays, brought out the whiskey on the plane. So it makes a lot of sense that this is how Yusei Kikuchi likes to enjoy his free time. I think if I had a dream to have go on a trip with the one guy that played on the Blue Jays before, just go out with any guy that played in the MLB. Yusei Kikuchi would be one of the top people to have a night on the town with.
Oh, dude, he'd be a blast. I think we did that early on. I want to see the preseason last year or the offseason last year when we first took over this podcast. Didn't we say one of the guys you'd want to go have a beer with or something? I don't know if Yusei Kikuchi was on one of our lists at that point. Maybe.
I don't think he was at that point.
But now he might have to be number one. That would be an electric evening.
Yeah, the personality just really got brought out in the last few seasons in Toronto. So hopefully we do have some memories like that as well this upcoming season. Maybe we get another guy that is a little bit quirky like Yusei Kikuchi. Maybe that's Andrus Gimenez. Don't necessarily think that is. But again, maybe we'll see somebody. Maybe it'll be a Will Wagner. We'll see more of him, Joey Loperfido. Maybe we'll see Orelvis Martinez actually play some baseball this year, and that could be our guy for this upcoming season. But I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching, the likes, comments, all the support recently has been appreciated, especially with how the offseason has went. A lot of our feed right now is just negativity. We try to remain sort of positive, but the Toronto Blue Jays make it pretty tough. Yeah, you're definitely not on that other side. There was a comment once that said Braden is a ray of sunshine. I had a good chuckle at that one because, we've been a little bit negative on this podcast. And again, once we get to spring training, once we have this final roster, we'll be spin zoning it. We'll be excited about this team because there's no point of hating the team that you're going to watch. No point of hate watching. There's no point of being just a huge downer on the season. It's 162 games. We're going to be reporting on this team a whole lot. So I don't think you guys, and I don't think it's going to be very fun for us if we're just negative the entire time. But with the offseason, the way it's transpired, hard not to be right now.
Yeah, no, when the season kicks off, I mean, I'm always just thrilled that baseball's back. It's hard going through the winter and not watching baseball. I think I've already rewatched the 2015 run 3 times this winter. So I just miss it. So yes, I'm getting all my negativity out now so that hopefully in the season I can be a ray of sunshine for that comment. As always, like Carter said, really appreciate you guys watching, engaging with us in so many different ways. The comments have been unbelievable. I just had somebody tell me today actually that they couldn't believe how many people comment and how many conversations are going on, in our comment section. And I said, that's sort of the environment we want to create. We want, people to be able to talk to each other in the comments, talk to us respond. That makes it the best. We're all fans of this team, and we hope that we enjoy it for most of the time. And then if we have to hate, at least we can do it together. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you guys later.